All right, I'm going to stop doing that. I'm going to stop doing that. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. Let's go live on Instagram. All right, let's see. Okay, we're live everywhere. Thank you very much for tuning in. I appreciate you guys being a part of the show. Closing in on 6 weeks of the Sliwa show, and it's not canceled yet. I got to be honest with you. I'm a little surprised here. I thought by this point it was done. I thought this was a solid 3-week run, and then that's it. It was over. I appreciate you guys hanging out. Friday, November 15th, 8 a.m. on the dot. I think I started at 7:59, so I just want everybody to know I'm working a little bit of overtime here. We got a really, really good show lined up today. Really, really good show lined up today. And then we got a badass Laker game coming up a little bit later. Lakers and the San Antonio Spurs. So I got a lot of stuff that I want to get into. I'm going to give everybody a quick second to start kind of working their way in. I'm going to go ahead and throw a couple plugs out there real quick. If you guys don't mind subscribing to the channel, would greatly appreciate that. Please like and subscribe. Got my cup of Joe right here. You know, yesterday I was on the lookout. I was on the hunt for some coffee. And I don't need coffee, but I was out there just kind of taking a look, taking a gander. I think what I got to start doing here is I think I got to start buying some local coffee brew. They got them at the grocery stores. And then I'll just highlight some different coffee. Whatever I'm drinking on that day, I'll highlight the coffee that I'm drinking. So top of the morning to everybody. Hopefully everybody's getting ready for the weekend. And I'm going to do the best I can to get you guys all set up for the weekend as well. All right, let's take a look at a couple of these comments here. Good morning. Morning, Slee. All right, let's see a couple more here. Happy Friday. Happy Friday to you as well. We got a lot of people that are chiming in and getting ready to say hello. Okay, a couple things I got to point out here. Number one, before I get into actually what the show is going to be today, because I do have a show that I'm going to actually do. Before I do that, as I get my sip of coffee here, I fugazied you guys. Remember how before we were talking a little bit about what exactly I kept mentioning the movie Donnie Brasco. And I kept saying that in the movie Donnie Brasco, there's probably one of my favorite scenes of all time. Johnny Depp is sitting right there. Al Pacino comes up to him. He comes up to him with these diamonds that are in like a napkin. Johnny Depp takes a look. He's like, it's a fugazi. It's not real. It's not real. Well, this morning, I just want you guys to know, I finally figured out how to use a green screen. And it looks like right now I'm sitting in my studio in San Diego. I am not sitting in my studio in San Diego. How good does this look? I could be remote. I could be anywhere. For all you guys know, I'm in Tokyo right now. For all you guys know, I'm in Panama. I could be in any part of the world right now. And here I got my green screen up with it will look better too. Like I could already see certain things. I'm like, you change this, you change that. How badass is this? It looks good. This also helps me a little bit with my post-game show when I do it. When I do the post-game show, I don't have to be in the freaking studio till 11 o'clock at night. I don't have to do that. I got to figure out my stuff here. So I fugazed you guys. I'm not in the studio right now. I'm actually in Pasadena, California right now. But the setup is there. And is it a fugazi if I tell you guys the truth? I don't think it's a fugazi if I tell you guys the truth. All right, let's get into the show. Here's what we got coming up today. Lakers at the Spurs. I want to talk about this matchup. I'm actually really, really excited about this matchup specifically because we get a chance to see Victor Wembanyama. So anytime you get to see one of the best players in the world, I'm excited about that. I can see Anthony Davis versus Victor Wembanyama. Spurs are playing a little bit better basketball. I kind of like what they did with their team, so we'll spend a little time on that. Gregg Popovich, unfortunately, I don't know what your guys' history is with Gregg Popovich, but my entire life of being an NBA fan and cheering for the Lakers, Gregg Popovich has been a part of that because he's been with the Spurs, I think, since the late 80s as an assistant. So his health, kind of a couple things there. LeBron had a couple of quotes there. Is there potentially a, how do I put this here? Did Shams tell us that there might be an actual timing of when we know LeBron will retire? He was talking about it yesterday on SportsCenter, so I'm going to spend a little time on that. I think it was actually First Take. MLB free agency, I got a couple updates. And then our guest today, Brian Windhorst, who I'm going to kind of wait on this because he's supposed to come on at 8:30. but let's see what happens. I know he's doing a lot of Sports Center hits. He's doing a lot of other stuff. But him and I were texting yesterday, so we're going to try 8:30. Hopefully he's able to come on and join the show. And, I got to give a lot of love to Brian because for as long as I was doing my radio show, and whether was it whenever I started or, when I was doing it towards the absolute end, however you want to look at it, that dude always gave me time, always. And Windhorst, you guys know, look how busy this dude is. He's on Sports Center hits, NBA Today, everything you could think of, he's on there, First Take, and he's always gave me love. And we're working on trying to get him on for 8:30 today. So hopefully that one works out. But either way, whether it works out or it doesn't, I got a lot of love for Brian Windhorst because he's always showed love to me in my shows. Okay, Lakers at Spurs. This is, when I say it's going to be a fun matchup, let me just kind of give you guys a little bit of info on the Spurs here. I'm not going to get too in depth, but I like what they did in the offseason. And I think a lot of people out there would look at it and say, they got Chris Paul. Who the hell cares? Okay. They got Harrison Barnes. Who the hell cares? I understand that. I'm not trying to tell you that the Spurs are going to go make the NBA Finals or anything like that. But I think they got a couple vets that can get in the same room with some of these young players, including Victor Wembanyama. And that's good for them. And that sounds, don't those two moves don't they sound like a move that the San Antonio Spurs would make? They'd go grab Chris Paul really, really late in his career just to kind of trying to change the locker room vibe in there. They'd grab a guy like Harrison Barnes, who's probably one of the least drama dudes in the NBA, and they'll bring him on that team. And I think both of those players will be able to help them to an extent. But really, more than anything else, you're just trying to surround Victor Wembanyama with professionals, vets, guys that have been in the league for a long time. Before I get into the actual matchup, I'll just tell you this about the Spurs. I don't think most people believe that the Spurs are going to be a playoff team. And I don't think they're going to be a playoff team either. However, I think their goal is, can they just be in the mix by the time you get a little bit closer to February and March? Are they in that play-in tournament kind of stage right around there? The West isn't easy. If they were in the Eastern Conference, their 6-6 record actually would be pretty strong. But they're in the West, where OKC is, where Dallas is, where Golden State is, where Minnesota is. Go down the list. Denver Nuggets, up and down the list of all these really, really good teams in the Western Conference. Put Lakers on that list. And they're going to struggle, but I think their goal is just hover around 500. They're 6-6 right now. If you're looking at that schedule and, you're trying to guess for the Lakers, hey, how do the Lakers jump to an early lead here? How do they got a chance? If they win tonight, they're 8-4. If I'd have told Laker fans before the season started, through the first 12 games, Lakers are 8-4, everyone's signing up for it. But the reason I kind of pause here and I hesitate is because it's not a given tonight. I would tell you that tonight's going to be a really, really tough game for the Lake Show. And I also wouldn't be surprised that in this 2-game road trip that the Lakers have, that they split the road trip. They go 8-5. That's not completely out of the ordinary. That's not complete. I'm telling you guys that tonight's not going to be an easy game against the San Antonio Spurs. They're feeling good about themselves. 6-6 record. Couple of the wins that they got that I think are pretty good wins. They beat Minnesota so far this year. They beat Houston so far this year. Houston's getting off to a good start. They beat Sacramento. So those are 3 teams right there that they've beat that are all going to be right in the mix of that playoff hunt. So I give them credit, and I don't think tonight's going to be an easy game against the Spurs. And like I said, if the Lakers are able to win tonight, and then tomorrow you're playing a Pelicans team that's missing DeJounte Murray, Zion Williamson, Herb Jones. Who else are they missing? Alvarado is injured as well. They got like 5-6 key players that are missing on that team. If they can win tonight, you got now a legitimate chance of starting the season out 9-4, which I think would make Laker fans pretty excited. And I think it would be more about the Lakers just taking care of business, but we'll see what they can do tonight. Why do I get excited about a game like this? I don't know how much you guys have got a chance to watch Victor Wembanyama, but I think there's certain times that players come from, maybe they come from a different, maybe we didn't get a chance to see them in college. Maybe they're not a player specifically that you look at and you say to yourself, okay, I'm going to give you guys an example. Cooper Flagg we're going to get a chance to see at Duke, and then he's eventually going to come into the NBA. And it's not like he's a specimen we've never seen in the NBA. He's a high flyer. He's incredibly athletic. Okay, we've seen players like that get into the league. We've seen players like that excel in college. What makes Wemby so fascinating, and I have not watched, every game Wemby has played, but anytime Wemby is on and it's a nationally televised game, or I'm flipping through the channels, I'm looking at the NBA scoreboard, okay, Spurs are playing the Rockets. I'll try to tune into Wemby. And the reason why is I don't have anybody that's ever played in the league that I can compare his game to. Victor Wembanyama is 7'4", 7'5". I think he's listed as 7'3", but it looks like he's a lot taller. He's got an 8-foot plus wingspan. He's he did something, I think the first time that's ever happened in NBA history for a center. He had 3 straight games where he hit 5 threes or more. He's breaking all these small records that we've never seen before because they just don't make sense. What do you mean he had over 5 steals and over 5 block shots and over 5 rebounds and over 5 points? He's doing these he's got these stats that I think a lot of people who care about stats are looking at and saying, yeah, I don't know if we've ever seen that before. We got to go check the history books. He had a game, his last game that he played was against Charlotte. I want to say it was against Charlotte. He dropped 50 and he had 8 threes. He's 7'3". Oh, no, it was against the Wizards. He's 7'3", 7'4". He dropped 50 and had 8 3-pointers. I know, obviously, a lot of my coverage here, I spent a lot of time talking about the Lakers and, we get into all that. Dalton Connect and Anthony Davis and J.J. Redick. And what's Pelinka going to do? We do all that. But occasionally, the Lakers are going to face a team where I still can't understand what exactly this player is. I remember when he got drafted, a lot of people were critical. Yeah, he's too lanky. He's never going to be healthy. He's never going to be this. I get it. I completely understand it. Look at his frame. His frame does not look like that's an NBA player that's going to play for 15 years. He's been balling out since he came into the league. He's a pretty damn incredible player so far. And in his second year in the NBA, I was looking up his stats yesterday. Do you know he's averaging 3.8 blocks a game? 3.8 blocks a game. I think number 2 is around 2 blocks a game. I know Anthony Davis was 1.6, 1.8, somewhere around there when it comes to blocks. He's averaging 3.8 blocks per game. And then on top of that, he's doing whatever he does offensively, 22 points a game. Looks like he's grabbing 10 rebounds a game, almost 3 assists. I mentioned the 3.8 blocks, a steal and a half a game as well in 12 regular season games. I'm excited to see Wemby play tonight. I mean, obviously, I don't want him to excel here, but that dude is special, and he's special because he's such a unique player. We don't have a comp for him. I think there's certain players in the league you could look at and you could say, LeBron is one of one. What do you mean LeBron's got the body of Karl Malone and the body of Charles Barkley, but he's got the speed of pick one of the faster guys in the NBA. And he's got the passing ability of Magic Johnson. He's got the scoring ability of he's one of one. And there's only a few players in this league that are one of one. And Wemby, a lot of it because of his size, his length, his wingspan is one of one. And that's pretty incredible to watch. All right, let me take a look at a couple of the comments here. Wemby is special. He's fun to watch. Yeah, it's going to be, and I think the thing that I like is it's going to be Anthony Davis and Wemby. That's the thing that I like. The thing that I like most about any of this stuff is I'm a fan of when you're starting to see certain players and then they got to go toe-to-toe with Anthony Davis. That's why it's fun when you see AD and Embiid, or, back in the day you're watching LeBron and it's KD. You're still watching those two go at it. But when they're in their prime, Wemby's incredibly young. Anthony Davis is in the heart of his prime, but that's going to be a fun matchup tonight. And again, I'm going to say it again. If you think this is just one of those games, no problem, Lakers are going to handle business. It's the Spurs. They're 6-6. They're going to be in a dogfight tonight. And one of the things the Lakers don't do well in is typically when they're in a dogfight and the other team is punching and there's real talent on the other side, Lakers seem to have headaches with that. So let's see how they do tonight. Wemby equals KD on steroids. I like that. I like that. The KD on steroids, KD was supposed to be one of one. What do you mean the guy's almost 7 foot and he can hit threes and take you off the dribble and cross you over? Well, what if a guy is 6'4", 6'5", and he's doing the same thing? I saw somebody else here. Yep. Pale says 7'5", stopgap. And I'm just reading what ESPN has, but you're probably right on that. He's probably closer to 7'5". Wemby equals KD 2.0. All right, let's see what else we got here. Sliwa, did you give Mike Tyson any pointers for? Is that this weekend? Is that going on this weekend? I feel like that thing was that him and Jake Paul. Why do I have a feeling that Mike Tyson fight with Jake Paul has been? I feel like that's been being promoted since I think I started hearing about it in 2021. Is that thing happening or no? Oh, it's tonight? Yeah, I don't think I'll be watching that. We'll see. Maybe if there's, a streaming service out there that will help a brother out, maybe I'll change my mind on that. Okay, I'm going to switch gears here for a quick second. I don't know if you guys saw this, and so I was reading this article, and I know this news came out a little bit ago, but Gregg Popovich, the health of Gregg Popovich. So for those who don't know, he is Gregg Popovich is not going to be on the sidelines for tonight's game, Lakers taking on the Spurs. He suffered a mild stroke. So he's on his mission for full recovery. And there were some quotes that came out. I know there was a good article out there in the LA Times, and it was LeBron talking about Gregg Popovich. I'm going to read you a couple of quotes, and I got something on Pop that I want to go through real quick. For me personally, there's much bigger news out of San Antonio right now, and that's my dear friend, Coach Pop. I'll be thinking heavily about him as I travel there tomorrow, and I'm wishing him the best of health, and hopefully I see him soon. It doesn't even have to be on the sidelines. That's the most important thing for me. I didn't know this, and I guess I just didn't realize it, didn't put the pieces together. Gregg Popovich, some of the history that he has with LeBron. First, he met the Spurs. He's faced the Spurs 3 times in the NBA Finals, right? When he was with the Cavs, when he was with the Miami Heat 2 different times. But also on top of that, Gregg Popovich was an assistant coach when LeBron was 19 years old playing on the U.S. men's basketball team that ended up winning that bronze back in 2004. So he's got a lot of history with him. Anyways, it just took me back to, obviously, I'm hoping for the best for Gregg Popovich. Do you know Gregg Popovich has been coaching in the league? He's been an assistant since the 80s with the Spurs. Took over the head coaching job, I want to say right in the mid-90s, early 90s, somewhere around there. For as long as I've been watching NBA basketball, Gregg Popovich has been on the sidelines. And my favorite era of basketball, I remember I was asking Michael, I was asking MT when he was on earlier in the week, what's your favorite era of basketball? And Michael immediately went to the Showtime era. And he started talking about when Jordan was in the league and Larry Bird was in the league and Magic Johnson was in the league and what the league meant. And that was his favorite era of basketball. Mine, it's basically from the mid-90s on for a solid, you could say all the way up until that the Powell Kobe era that they had. It's probably my favorite era of basketball. I know that's probably a long stretch there. Gregg Popovich has been there the entire time. The biggest headaches that I've had as a Laker fan in the past, Gregg Popovich was on the sideline for the San Antonio Spurs. How many different times do we talk about rivalry in sports? And people want to say, Laker fans may say, oh, only the Celtics are the Lakers' rival. Okay, I get it. I understand that with the history. Or maybe other teams are saying, maybe Denver's saying our rival is the Lakers, and Phoenix is saying our rival is the Lakers, and Portland is saying our rival is the Lakers, but Sacramento, but Laker fans are like, no, we don't really have a rivalry with you because you never beat us on the biggest stage. There was a stretch there where the Lakers and the San Antonio Spurs, it was basically like, hey, whichever these two teams come out of the West, that's who's winning the NBA championship. I'll never forget it. Lakers were still at the Great Western Forum. It's in 1999, and I think that was the shortened season. And Mario Elie, if you guys remember Mario Elie, hits a corner 3 against the Lakers. It's against the San Antonio Spurs at the Great Western Forum, and he's like, basically, I just shut this place down. Spurs go on to win an NBA championship. The battles that the Lakers had against the San Antonio Spurs, Gregg Popovich was on those sidelines every single year. And even after the Lakers and Shaq and Kobe broke up, it was still Gregg Popovich. And then there was, then Kawhi Leonard ends up being the player that the San Antonio Spurs, I mean, think about Gregg Popovich was taking his teams to the NBA Finals against Shaq and Kobe. He was taking his teams to the NBA Finals against LeBron, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh. Like, that's how long of a stretch Gregg Popovich has had just pure greatness. So, because they're playing the Spurs, I'm not going to talk about Gregg Popovich too much. I thought, I wanted to bring that up. But my history, my biggest frustrations as a Laker fan, I'd always look on the other side. I'm like, freaking Gregg Popovich. Will this guy ever go away? One of the greatest coaches to ever do it. Didn't do it in a big market like LA, was able to do it in San Antonio. R.C. Buford, who's their president of basketball operations, been there for a long time. They ran an unbelievable shop for so many years, and now they got Victor Wembanyama. So shout out to Pop, and hopefully his health is nothing but better, and we'll see where that goes from there. All right, I do think that Laker fans know where I'm going when I talk about Pop from that perspective. Love Pop. Hope he makes a speedy recover. All right, let's see where we're going here. Spurs have much respect from Laker fans. Great battles. Look, that's what I'm talking about. Because I think at the end of the day, I think when I look back, specifically between the two franchises, anytime you look at any of these other teams, the only way you have a true rivalry is if the other squad is winning as well. Kobe obviously used to have great respect for him. Shaq used to have great respect for him. I don't know if Phil Jackson and Gregg Popovich relationship was, but it would be impossible for both of those guys not to have respect. So that's the best way to put it. There's this as well, and I know a lot of people feel this way as well. I know Pop, I know Steve Kerr, some of these guys get really, really deep into politics, and that churns them off. I know politics typically, I'm assuming, churns people off when it comes to, sports and everything else, but they've used their platform any way they want. That's one of the ways they use it. Okay, with that being said, the Department of Justice. All right, I'm not going to do that right now. All right, let's keep this thing moving here. I spent a lot of time yesterday, and actually, no, that I'm not going to get into that right now. I want to. I was spending some time yesterday. I was listening to First Take. Sometimes I get some of the clips from First Take. I'm not big. It's kind of interesting. When I look at ESPN right now, nationally, man, I don't watch ESPN the way I used to. The way I used to always, wait for Sports Center. Just we're in a different world. That's not how it is anymore. I can get the highlights right after the game ends. I don't need to watch Sports Center for an hour. I don't need to do any of that stuff. But because I don't watch Sports Center, it kind of has driven me away from some of the others. I used to love Pardon the Interruption. I just don't watch it as much anymore. Anytime I do, I still enjoy that show. First Take, got to be honest, I'm not going out of my way to watch First Take. I don't. But I see clips. There'll be clips on YouTube, and maybe it's something about the Lakers, or maybe something about the NBA, or maybe, Stephen A said something, or Kendrick Perkins said something. It's like, all right, this is Laker related. Can I use it as all for part of my show or something like that? So yesterday, I thought it was interesting. Shams said something. Shams Charania, obviously now part of ESPN. He said something about LeBron that I thought was a little bit interesting. Shams Charania says, Lakers LeBron James could retire next season with one caveat. So I'm going to read the exact quote. And I think we've all kind of had the question of, man, how long can LeBron do this? I've heard in the past, and I've heard other people say it, I don't think LeBron wants to keep doing it until the wheels fall off. We see that with a lot of players where they go until they can't go anymore. Well, LeBron is still incredibly, incredibly effective for the Lakers. Hell, the last game the Lakers played was against the Grizzlies. 35, 12, and 14 in that win the Lakers had against the Grizzlies. So he's still making it happen. Let me read this quote, what Shams said. Bron's 39. He'll be 40 by the time we turn the calendar and get to January 1st. Look what Bron said about, or look what Shams said about LeBron in regards to how much longer he's going to play the game. He said, my sense is next season could potentially be his last season in the NBA. Maybe Bryce James keeps him around an extra year or two, but I do think next season, All-Star game in Los Angeles, there might be some good momentum there for that. Okay. So, a couple things here. I always kind of question how LeBron will go out when he's done. Is LeBron going to say to himself, I could just keep getting literally $50 million contracts probably for another 4 or 5 years and stay in the NBA? And even if it's with the Lakers, or maybe he decides in his final year or two, I'm just making stuff up, he's going to go back to Cleveland, and Cleveland will pay him a lot. By the way, I don't know. Maybe the Cavs would say, look, we can't give you $50 million. We're trying to compete. We're undefeated right now. We're trying to compete for an NBA championship. It's not smart for us to give you X amount of dollars. It's not like the Cavs are trash and they decide we're just going to accommodate what LeBron wants. It's not the Wizards. It's not one of those other teams out there that are just trying to sell tickets. The Cavs are actually competing, and who knows? Maybe they're a team that could compete with the Eastern Conference. In the Eastern Conference, I still think they're a piece away if they want to really go up against the Boston Celtics. But let me just play this out from a Laker perspective. If he's on the Lakers this year and next year, okay, he's still putting up numbers. He's still, that whole father time thing that we talk about. He's averaging 24, 8, and 9, or 24, 8, and 8, basically 24, 8, and 8 so far. Maybe it's 23. I think I'm looking at some of his playoff numbers. Whatever he is, he's still very effective. I don't know how much I want to see a LeBron, 2 years from now still on this Lakers team and he's not effective. I think this has to be very business and transactional for both sides. I think as long as LeBron is doing what he's doing and he's still very effective, well, I don't think whether you're a fan of LeBron or not, if you're a Laker fan and he's still effective for the team, I don't really know what you can say. But I do think there will come a point, hypothetically, if LeBron is not effective anymore, and it's, well, we're just selling tickets and he's taking up X amount of dollars of, what the team has to go out there and sign free agents and kind of turn the page, that I think is going to be a problem. That I think would be a problem for Laker fans. He's still putting up unbelievable numbers. Yes, he's selling tickets. Yes, it's a good business decision to have LeBron on this team. But at the end of the day, he's also helping you win the games that you have. The Lakers are not better off today if LeBron's not there. In 2 years from now, I'm going to just assume that they are better off if LeBron's not there, because I'm just going to assume in a couple years from now, he's not the same player that he is today. Now, granted, I said that a couple years ago. I know we've been saying that for a long time. The other piece of this that I find interesting is maybe Bryce James keeps him around an extra year or two. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you guys about that quote. So, Bronny's already in the league, and a lot of people are, they're saying to themselves, okay, yeah, he's in the league, but he shouldn't have been the number 55 pick. He's only on this team because of that reason. You can add Bryce James to the team as well. Like, would that actually be? Would it be on the Lakers? Would it be somewhere? I have no idea. That one sounds like a little bit of a stretch to me, but I would have told you that this was a stretch a year ago if you'd have told me, yeah, Bronny's going to be on the Lakers. He's picked number 55. He's going to be in there for the first game. He'll be there with Ken Griffey Jr. and Ken Griffey Sr., and they're going to make a hoopla about it. There's going to be fans when you're on the road chanting, "We want Bronny," and they're going to go crazy when he comes in. I'd have told you that was a stretch. So we'll see how that all pans out, but that doesn't sound like, I think, something a lot of Laker fans would be too excited about. But that's a long ways to go from here. I think the bigger point that I take from Shams is there actually is a potential end date to LeBron James. Maybe it comes, maybe it doesn't. But typically from, what I've watched over the years and every time that I've seen, especially Shams in that regards, I'll be curious to see how this all kind of plays out. But a little surprising to see that there's actually a quote out there saying, hey, maybe he will be done by the time next season rolls around. Okay, as promised, and very, very, like I mentioned, very appreciative of his time, Mr. Brian Windhorst joined the show. Brian, good morning, man. How are you?
Good morning, Alan. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. How about yourself?
Happy to be in LA.
Okay, so you're in. I was going to ask you, man. Okay, how often are you traveling? I think we see you, but we don't know where you are most of the time.
Well, this is a tough year to ask that because of the Olympics, which was 5 weeks overseas in the quote unquote off season. The number is very, very high. It's a very, very big number this year. I don't say it out loud because it'll maybe drive my wife insane, but it's a gigantic number on the road. But I come out to LA a lot. I spend, I don't know, probably 50-ish days a year in LA. Come to a lot of games, trying to get used to going to the Intuit Dome. Once you get there, it's a really great place. Getting there is
not easy.
Is a change. It's just a change. Obviously people have been going to Inglewood for sporting events for decades. So it's new for an NBA, a guy who's only been in the NBA for 20 years like me.
Well, I haven't even gone yet. So, I mean, I'll wait probably till it's Lakers and Clippers before I head out there. But, okay. I want to start off with, I was just mentioning this and I was actually reading a quote. Shams yesterday was on and talking a little bit about LeBron and potentially, I'll read you the exact quote, but it just kind of leads me into what we were just talking about. He was mentioning that my sense is next season could potentially be his last season in the NBA. He did mention a couple things about maybe if Bryce James keeps around an extra year or two, we'll see what happens. All-Star game next year is in Los Angeles. Not that I'm asking for a prediction of how long LeBron's going to play for, because I don't know if we have a sense of that. I would rather just kind of turn more to he's still doing it, and he's still doing it at a high level. I know I've sat here, and you and I probably had conversations in the past and said, hey, I mean, a couple of years ago, we were probably saying, he can't go a couple more years, can he? What do you make of what he's doing right now? And if you want to give a prediction of how much longer you think he can do this for, especially at this level, you can feel free to do so. I
don't think LeBron knows. So, I mean, I'm sure he's got private thoughts and had private conversations with his closest people about what he thinks, but, I don't think he knows. And I think one of the things I actually think that how well LeBron is playing this year is being undersold. I know that it's kind of a hard thing for me to say to somebody to say that LeBron is being overlooked, but quite frankly, I don't think he's getting the attention he deserves for the way he's playing this year. I think he's been absolutely phenomenal. And I think looking at the changes in his game at this age, I mean, as everybody knows, he was really calling him an average three-point shooter is being generous. He was a below average three-point shooter for literally decades. I mean, I can say that sentence and it not be untrue, for decades. And over the last couple of years, I think when you watch LeBron play, it's fairly obvious that he doesn't get by people like he used to. Now, look, he can still get the corner turned, and if you are late on a rotation, he will finish in your face. He will stuff it down, and he can still get around a screen and get from the three-point line to the rim in good speed. But he's not able to beat people off the dribble the way he used to be. And that has been a major impact in his game. You've seen his free throws drawn, for example, really come down. And you see that a lot of times. And so what he's done, Alan, is that he's developed into an excellent three-point shooter. Last year he shot, I think, 41% or 40%, which is excellent. 40% in the NBA, you will be worth, $100 million. If you shoot 40% and are proficient defensively, you'll make $100 million. You'll get a $100 million contract. LeBron, I think he shot 40% once in his career. I don't have his stats right up in front of me, but I think it was one of the years in Miami, and I think he did it on like 2.5 or 3 threes a game. And that was just because he was very focused on efficiency. It was a different NBA. A decade passes, and he does it again. And this time, I think it was on 6 or 7 threes a game last year. This year, he's shooting 46% on threes on 7 or 8 a game. This isn't, because the thing about Jordan, when Jordan got into his later years and he couldn't do this, Jordan developed this killer mid-range game. He had developed, Kobe did too, developed this great footwork and everything like that. LeBron is developing his three-point shooting in his late 30s. And this isn't I don't think he's going to stay at 46%, although I shouldn't assume that. He did this all last season. He's, why wouldn't he remain shooting this well? It's, by the way, it's also the lifeblood of Laker offense. They need that shooting. Secondly, he's averaging 9 assists. Okay. You remember a couple of years ago, I think it might've been his second year in LA. It might've been the, his second year, maybe. Can't remember if it was a title year. He led the league in assists. He actually led the league in scoring and led the league in assists, something like 14 or 15 years apart. It's one of the great LeBron statistics that you hear and just, is true, but you can't believe. And then his, they've brought in more guards. They've taken the ball out of his hands a little bit. They need him to play point guard more. And he's averaging 9.5 assists. He's also averaging 8 rebounds. So we're talking about a guy who is 39. He's not, you can't really say he's close to a triple-double, but he's sniffing averaging a triple-double.
Sure.
And shooting incredibly high efficiency. And the Lakers are doing well, like despite having a very concerning defense. And I know AD has played well, and that's obviously a big factor. But I think LeBron is being underappreciated, if that's possible, the way he's playing right now.
So, Brian, I'm talking Lakers every single day. And there are a lot of times that I don't really know how to, I will say his last 3 games, he's had 3 triple-doubles, 3 straight games. And the assists that you're talking about, I'm with you. I mean, you're talking 12, 14, 16 assists in a game. And here I am kind of quickly breezing by that and saying, well, Dalton Connect went 7
LeBron did.
8,
LeBron at the post-game interview.
From the field.
Yeah, he's like, well, we rode Dalton Connect. And I was like, well, Dalton Connect did have one of the great nights of his life to this point. But the Lakers rode you, sir. AD was having I know AD hit a couple of shots late in that game. But, sir, they rode you. They've been riding you as they've been trying to come out of that road trip tailspin.
Yeah, it's a good way to put it, because I'm with you. There a lot of times I just don't know how to describe it. When something happens, it's like you go to a great restaurant, and every time you go there, it's just an unbelievable restaurant, and you just start losing the value of that restaurant because it's so great every time you go. You just expect it, and then you don't pay as much attention to it when you leave. And unfortunately, I think that happens with LeBron. It happens with a lot of the greats, but what he's doing at this age, I don't think there's a description for it. I'm curious to get your thoughts. We're 11 games in. Lakers are 7-4. Watching them every single night, I'm still trying to figure out, is this a good team or is it an average team that maybe has had some little bit of luck here? No Joel Embiid, no Tyrese Maxey. This weekend they'll face the Pelicans. No Zion. They've had a couple games against Memphis. No Ja Morant, no Desmond Bane. They had Ja Morant in the first game. What do you make of the Lakers' start? I don't think it matters how they get off to a good start, because they need a good start. They've had such poor starts in the past. But is this a team in the Western Conference? Kind of when you look at the West, how do you feel the Lakers, as the team is constructed right now, how do you feel they rank in the West versus the rest of their opponents?
Well, playing teams without star players is unfortunately the modern NBA.
Yeah,
that just happens. So I'm not going to devalue their record. They had a 5-game road trip already. Their record is what it is. It's hard. So I think AD has been terrific. I think LeBron, you know how I feel about that.
Sure.
I think Dalton Connect is showing the promise that he can basically replace what D'Angelo Russell is for this team medium term, because the Lakers have this D'Angelo Russell problem, which is another topic. I don't know how often he'll be able to do that, but getting a player who can contribute in this particular draft. I mean, I think if you look in the teens in this draft, you look at Jared McCain, who was really doing well for Philly. If the Lakers could have are effectively had drafted a rotation player immediately out of this draft, that's a major feather in the cap of Rob Pelinka and his front office. And it looks like there's a chance of that happening. You don't want to make assumptions in November. It's hard to have me take them seriously, Alan, when they're so bad on defense. And, in the modern era of the NBA, last, 7-8 years, I used to believe that you had no chance, if you didn't have a top 15 defense, we would just fill in time to talk about you as a contender. That's not necessarily true anymore. I think the Denver Nuggets, although they've gotten better defensively, they prove that you can win at a very high level without having an elite defense. Even some of LeBron's teams in Cleveland the second time around did not play good defense in the regular season. And when it mattered, they did. So I'm not going to sit here and say, well, if you're 25th in defense, I'm not going to spend time on you. But the Lakers' margin for error because of their defense is so much smaller. They really, really are dependent on getting great offensive production a lot of nights because they can't get stops. And I know what the Laker fan will default to. They'll say, well, when Jared Vanderbilt comes back. Well, I've been hearing that for a year. I mean, yeah, I think it could matter. I think the best thing I can say about these Lakers is that I don't think that they are a superstar trade acquisition away from being a more relevant team. I think that if Vanderbilt gets healthy and they're able to get another athletic big man who can help them on the back line of their defense and take some pressure off Anthony Davis, I honestly think they could go up a level. But it's hard for me to take them out of that 6 to 10 to 12 morass when they can't get stops. And you can already see that JJ is struggling trying to find ways to get stops. You've seen it in how he's changed his rotations. You've seen how he's changed his lineup. And he's basically had a healthy team. I know Vanderbilt hasn't been there, but basically he's had a healthy team relative to these, like, he's had all the cards to play. And so I don't think it's a bad thing. I think they play very interesting, relevant basketball. I'm very much looking forward to tonight's game. Wembanyama's coming off a 50-point game. LeBron's red hot. AD versus Wembanyama. Like, that's going to be a great Friday night to enjoy. But I can't look at them the same way I look at some of the other teams at the top of the West, like Oklahoma City, or even a team like, Minnesota, who is, frankly, behind the Lakers in the standings right now. But I know that their group can elevate more than I think the Lakers have shown.
You mentioned D'Lo for a quick second. We've had a lot of D'Angelo Russell conversations. I'm curious, what's his value and what's his perception around the league right now? He's in the final year of his contract. I think a lot of Laker fans, for the most part, don't have that much confidence in him in him coming through. Probably more from a postseason perspective. The stats are going to be there, but what's the perception of D'Lo around the league? And you think D'Lo's going to be a Laker by the time we get to the trade deadline?
Well, I think for the Lakers, it's almost one of these situations like you can't live with him, you can't live without him, because there are stretches where he's just, he really is a tough watch. And, Darvin has benched him, JJ has benched him. I mean, they can frame it however they want to frame it. They've benched him. They took him out of the starting lineup. But obviously, when he plays well, it's transformative for the Lakers. When he started playing well last year, after he got put back in the starting lineup, they went on a run, foundation for their turnaround. So how can you look at him and say that he's not important? And, had he his opt-out decision, I'm sure you guys talked about it a lot. I thought it was one of the more fascinating decisions of last offseason, because quite frankly, his value in the NBA isn't that high. And we know this because the Lakers have tried to trade him and haven't found a deal that they like, because they, and Pelinka has said this. He said on the record, we can't find a deal. He hasn't said necessarily in a reference to D'Angelo, but he said you have to buy
a house that's not for sale, I think.
Right. Well, yep. I think he should flip it around. He can't sell a house that nobody wants to buy. I think is the better way to say it.
Right.
And, one of the reasons why D'Angelo opted into his contract, I mean, he can say whatever he wants. The reason he did it wasn't because he had this undying love of being a Laker, although I'm sure he does love being a Laker. The market wasn't there for him.
Yep.
He wasn't going to get $17 million if he opted out. Having said that, had he opted out, the Lakers would have been under a significant amount of pressure to re-sign him. Now, I don't know what the contract would have been, but the reason they needed to do that, Alan, is because the guy made like 100 some odd threes last year. And when he shot the ball, well, he was transformative. And if he walked out the door, they had no functional way, either A, to replace that production, or B, you have the salary slot. Because once the salary slot goes away, you can't just make it up out of whole cloth. I felt they would have almost had to re-sign him. Now, maybe they postured and said no. And now that they have Dalton Knecht, and Knecht looks like he could be, filling that role, which is, a gunner who maybe doesn't get you a lot on defense, but can crush on offense, who's literally a fraction of the price. Maybe that does work out. And that's what I'm saying. But like, the Lakers still need D'Angelo Russell, because they still haven't proven that they have enough offense on a night in and night out basis to make up for what they give up at the other end of the court.
What I want to get into this Spurs Lakers game coming up tonight, and Wembanyama specifically. But last one on the Lakers here, real quick. What have you made of Rob Pelinka and how he's done in the front office for the Lakers? How do you? I know we've gone about a year and a half where the Lakers have had these draft picks, and there's been some chatter that they're going to trade those picks to improve the roster. It didn't happen, and like we were talking about, whether it's the market or nobody wants what the Lakers have. I'm curious to just get your thoughts on what have you made as Pelinka in his role?
So one of the things that I have sort of come up with some tenets that I don't really stray too far from in 23 years covering the NBA. One of them is to never, and I underline never, and I know the word never is a dangerous word, but I never devalue a championship. I have seen how their teams are put together. I have seen firsthand, step by step at how hard they are to win. I absolutely refuse to do it. One of the easiest ways to trigger me is to use the word asterisk next to a championship. And one of the easiest ways to trigger me is for people who, like, for example, a popular, talking point in the NBA is to devalue what Kevin Durant did for the Warriors, which I find complete horse bleep because of his value and how hard it is to win championships. Rob Pelinka assembled from nothing a championship team. That banner hangs up there forever. That is what Rob Pelinka is, the first line of his bio, the first line someday, long in the future, hopefully, of his obituary. He assembled a championship team for the Los Angeles Lakers, and he did it. He put them in position to get LeBron. He made the Anthony Davis trade. He acquired those players. That has to be the first thing you have to say about Rob Pelinka. I think since then, obviously, it's been a very mixed bag. The Russell Westbrook trade was a catastrophe. And in many ways, the Lakers are still kind of coming out of that.
Sure.
Having said that, he has also made a number of other moves that have been excellent. And I really do wonder, as good as those trades were 2 years ago. And by the way, the reason those trades were so good 2 years ago was because the Lakers became one of the top defensive teams in the league after the trade. I'm pretty sure, don't hold me to these exact numbers, but I'm pretty sure they were the number one defense in the league after the trade, or after the trade deadline, or after the All-Star break. And I know that there were some circumstances that fell their way about why they got to the conference finals, but that team defended. And I really do wonder, as good as those trades were, what would have happened if they had got Mike Conley in that deal instead of D'Angelo Russell.
Oof.
And that's sort of the Rob Pelinka paradox. Like, he has done terrific stuff, and he is also, by the way, his draft record is doing pretty good, but he's also, gone all in on Gabe Vincent. When I say all in, is because that's what their salary, they've used their primary salary signing space in the last 2 years on Gabe Vincent and Max Christie, two guys who are not contributing at all.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think you can go to any GM. I mean, you can find, big, giant, glaring, gaping holes in Sam Presti's decision-making, even though he's routinely been one of the most competent GMs. He doesn't have there's no banner in Oklahoma City. And Sam Presti is pretty much, I think every team in the league would hire Sam Presti if he was available. Well, maybe not every team. I don't think the Miami Heat are firing Pat Riley, but if you had an opening and you could get Sam Presti, you would, put it that way. But it's that up and down that is the frustrating thing. And so, I think the ultimate stressor on the Lakers is they have two generational superstars who are in their 30s, and they don't have a maximum great team. They have a very entertaining team. They're still super relevant. They still play terrific games. They're the backbone of the NBA media product, on both on television and on shows like this. Let's be honest. They, are incredibly profitable. They are a worldwide brand that's only growing. They got a lot going for them, but you have this feel that they're leaving something on the table. And when you have guys like LeBron and AD who really don't leave anything on the table with their games for the most part, that's something that sort of hangs over like a cloud blocking the sun on a beautiful LA afternoon. You know what I mean? And so that makes Pelinka's tenure a little bit more, difficult to encapsulate, but no less. I mean, the banner stays forever. That ring stays forever. It's
great perspective. I think it's so easy, especially, and I could fall into this trap as well. and a Laker fan base, as you know, probably falls into this trap. The way you just said, like, just stop for a quick second here. You won a championship with this president of basketball operations. How many president of basketball operations can say that in the NBA? There really isn't that many. So just the full stop. I love how you set that up because I think it does put things in perspective in regards to Pelinka. Lakers got a game coming up against Wemby tonight. You got a chance. You were there on draft night, and you were there with Wembanyama, and you had an opportunity to interview him, and I'm sure develop a relationship and everything else. From the moment he came into the NBA, he's only in his second season. Like you mentioned, he dropped 50 in his last game and hit 8 threes. Has he been better than advertised? Just kind of give me an idea. I don't get to watch Wemby every single night. I'm with you that there's certain games on the schedule that are going to be fun. That's going to be fun tonight. Lakers, Anthony Davis, Wemby. Just what has Victor Wembanyama, from the moment that he came into the league to where he's sitting today, how has he done with some of those expectations? And what's Wemby in 3 to 5 years?
Yeah. So I have this rule, another one of my rules, starts to sound like an old man. I don't put a ceiling on Victor Wembanyama. You could tell me just about anything short of him taking flight. And I might not rule it out. And I think the thing that was so remarkable about last season was how much better he got from game 1 to game 82. Despite the Spurs really trying to protect him. For example, he is a center. He doesn't like playing center. He is a center. And they started the season out playing him at power forward. And they finally came to their senses like 25 games in, like he's a center. And he also had to embrace it too, because he doesn't like it. And once he started doing that, like you started seeing crazy stuff. And he didn't have a point guard last year. No offense to anybody, he just didn't. Mm-hmm. And so now they've gone out and they've got some point guards, and Chris Paul especially, and you're seeing some benefits from that. Over the summer in the Olympic final, LeBron said that playing Serbia in the semifinals and playing France in the finals in Paris was the equivalent of playing back-to-back Game 7s. This is a guy who's got one of the best Game 7 records in NBA history, by the way. And LeBron's saying that felt like a Game 7. So you can decide or not whether you feel that way. I was in the building. I can tell you it felt like as big of a event as I've covered. Because it was in Paris.
Sure.
Wembanyama was absolutely brilliant from the opening tip. And for him to deliver in that moment, consider the pressure. Like, he's 20 years old. He's playing. This is a once in a lifetime moment. He may win NBA championships. He may win a gold medal. He may win the gold. He may lead France to the gold medal here in LA in 4 years. But he'll never get a chance to play for the gold medal in his home country like that. And under those pressure, he had an absolutely brilliant game. And so to see him to deliver under that pressure is why I come back to, I'm not going to put any ceilings on him. Now, his outside shot is extremely unreliable. He is on a hot streak right now. He was shooting 22% on threes, and over the last 3 games, he's 20 of 37. He had made 8 of them the other night. That's why he scored 50. But his outside shot is unreliable. And here's the other thing. He won't stop taking it. And this is the thing. Like I hear, people say, and I've said, like, he's got to mix up his game more. He's got to play more on the inside because he's 7'5", and he is 7'5". I don't know why he's so focused on being 7'4". He's 7'5". But since I've talked to his coaches since he was 12 years old. Trust me, when he was 12 and 6'5" or 6'7" or whatever he was when he was 12, they told him to go by the basket. Guess what? He still shot threes. This is what he wants. He wants to be this outside shooter. He wants his game to go all the way out. And how are you going to tell him what he's doing isn't working? Right? So he still has some holes in his game. The other thing is he still doesn't get to the foul line like he could. Now, the Spurs will tell you that it's because the NBA officials don't respect him yet, that people get away with putting their hands all over him. And maybe there's some truth to that. But he's got some things he's got to round out in his offensive game. But I'm not going to put any ceilings on him. And, the Spurs are playing in a difficult Western Conference with a team that, maybe there's 3 guys on that team that will be there in 2 years or 3 years. Like, and Chris Paul ain't one of them. You know what I mean? They're very much still in the infancy stages of building a team around him. But, he wants to make the playoffs. He wants to beat the Lakers tonight. Like he has a growth mindset, but it's an instantaneous result mindset.
Yeah, what was it? Right after his 50-point performance, the guys were already talking about the Laker game. I'm like, just Wemby, enjoy this one for a quick second. Okay, Wendy, last one I'm going to ask you, and very appreciative of your time, so thank you for doing this. Just in the East and the West, I think it's fair, and you tell me if I'm wrong on this one, but Oklahoma City seems to be the class of the Western Conference, and we'll see when they get healthy. They're only going to get better. The Boston Celtics, deservedly so, should be the class of the Eastern Conference. After those two teams, can you give me one team from each conference that you believe will be there when the dust settles, that you just feel like is elite as well?
Yeah, I think at the start of the season, I would have said the Timberwolves, because I just really believe in teams that can defend. And by the way, the Thunder are the number one defense, and the Celtics are 2 or 3. Or I think the Magic are 2, the Rockets are 3, and the Celtics are 4. So, and right now, one of the reasons why you would talk about the Golden State Warriors is they're top 5 in offense and like top 5 or 6 in defense. When you get kind of that golden both ends of the court.
Sure.
I don't know if the Warriors have staying power. They're very much an experimental team, the way that they're playing. I am still pulled more toward the Timberwolves because I believe that they can be an absolute beast defensively, and they have one of the best offensive players in the league. The Nuggets, because Jokic, I was talking about LeBron earlier. Jokic is also having right now the best start to a season in his career. The man has won MVPs 4 straight years, 3 regular season and 1 finals. And he may never be playing better in the regular season than he is right now. Because you have that, I have to respect that. But I'm more interested in the teams that can do it at both ends. And right now, that's Golden State. I'm going to watch that. In the East, these teams are at the bottom of the East, like Milwaukee and Philadelphia, and even New York, who's under 500 right now. They can look you in the eye and with full belief tell you that they still think they can get to play the conference finals to play against the Celtics, because there's not much in front of them, because they all have injury things and their teams aren't complete or whatever. And I could knock that down, but I would have a really hard time full-throated saying that's not true. And so the East is a completely different scenario in the West. Right now, if you are 500 in the East, I think you're in 3rd place. The Timberwolves have lost a couple games in a row, and they are 500, and they are in 11th. The Timberwolves were in the East, they would be thinking life was okay.
Sure.
I don't think the Cavs are as good as their record. Having watched most of their games, if they were 10-3, it would be maybe more appropriate to their level. And they would still be off to a great start and still in 2nd place by like 5 games. But they do play at both ends. The Cavs have right now the top offense in the league. And I can't believe that will last, but they have routinely been a top 10 defense. They are again. And the changes that Kenny Atkinson has made and the play that they're getting up and down the lineup dictates that that's a team that, again, if you're in the top in both, you have to be taken seriously. I think one of the things you can take away from the NBA right now, look at the teams who are having great success.
Yep. Looking
at Golden State, Cleveland, Boston, Oklahoma City. I'll even throw Phoenix in there. These are teams with great depth. We didn't know that Phoenix's depth was going to be this good. And then they went out and got Tyus Jones and Mason Plumlee, and they drafted this guy, Ryan Dunn, at the 28th pick, who's been an instantaneous rotation player. You add 3 legitimate rotation players to a team that has 3 all-stars, that makes a big difference. Golden State's playing 12 or 13 guys. So Cleveland's playing 10 guys. So that makes a big difference.
Brian, you are very, very kind with your time. I really appreciate you joining the show. So thank you for doing this. I know you got to run, but thank you for taking the time. Right, buddy? Appreciate the breakdown.
Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, Brian. All right, Brian Windhorst right there. Man, all right, couple things here. I didn't want to do it when he's on there because I think it's a little awkward when you're complimenting somebody when they're standing right in front of you. That dude's a good dude, like a really, really good dude. It's interesting as I kind of try to book some people for the show and everything else. I'm no longer at ESPN, so it's different. It's not going to be the exact same. There's a curiosity of what people will say yes and what people will say no and what people, will respond to you and what people won't respond to you. Windhorst, good dude, man. Very, very good. Very appreciative of his time right there. He almost did a half hour with us, so I appreciate his time. Okay. I'm going to skip some stuff here that I had planned for because we're already at an hour. I'm going to wait on MLB free agency. We'll just do it next week. No big deal. Maybe there's some more stuff that come about with MLB free agency. So I'm going to wait on that. But I am going to do the weekend preview coming up. Let me just look at some of your guys' let me just kind of read a couple of these comments here. We had a lot coming in. So let's see what we got here. Wendy's a pro. Wendy is very respectful. I'm telling you guys, I'm not bullshitting when I say it. That dude has been so kind with his time, and he doesn't have to be. So I think anytime that you see that, you're appreciative of it. Okay. Weekend preview. I got one thing on the weekend preview that I want to do, and then I got one thing that I want to bitch and complain about real quick because, just listen. There's times you gotta, there are times you just have to, you gotta bitch and complain every once in a while. Okay, so let me go through the weekend preview. I didn't really see. I think the NFL schedule I was looking at yesterday. I didn't really watch much of that Commanders game yesterday versus the Eagles, but was a badass game, or it should have been a badass game. Eagles won the game 26-18. I stopped watching at halftime because I went to go grab some dinner. NFL schedule this weekend that I was looking at. Rams at Patriots. They're 4-5. They're taking on the Patriots 3-7. So a chance for them to get back to 500 after that really bad loss to the Miami Dolphins. Other game that I saw, best game. Listen, 10 a.m. Do me a favor, everybody. Do me a favor. Do me a favor on Sunday morning. Wake up at 9:55. If you're sleeping in on Sunday, wake up at 9:55. If you really want to do it right, wake up maybe 8:45. Go to church for an hour and then come back by 9:55. 10 a.m. My people, get ready for a badass game. Ravens at Steelers, 7-3 versus 7-2. Fantastic game right there. And then I got you set up for a 1:00 game. Then, go take a little bit of break. Right after the Ravens and the Steelers are done, go take a break. Go outside. Go get a little fresh air. Go walk around. And then come right back inside and lock yourself up. Because at 1:25, Chiefs are at the Bills. You got the 9-0 Chiefs, 8-0 or 8-2 Buffalo Bills. Get back in the house and start watching some football again. And then if you want to take another quick break, you guys know how I feel about the Chargers. I hate them because I hate their owner. I hate Dean Spanos. You're a piece of you-know-what. Bengals at Chargers. Not a bad game as well. Chargers getting off to a good start, 6-3. That's what happens when you put a good coach in there in Harbaugh. But Bengals are playing the Chargers. I'm basically like I grew up, born and raised in Cincinnati. Come Sunday night at 5:20, I'm going to go get a Joe Burrow jersey. I'm going to go get a Ja'Marr Chase jersey. I'm going to go get a jersey from one of those Bengals players. So pretty good, actually. There isn't a lot of good games, but the three good games are spread out perfectly. Ravens, Steelers, Chiefs, and Bills. And I think that Bengals-Chargers game is going to be a good game as well. If you're a big college football fan, I'm going to throw out a couple games to look at this upcoming week. Can I just say this, and not many people are going to watch this? Utah's at Colorado. Okay, it doesn't really matter. How about Deion in Colorado? Are they just quietly number 17? Are they just quietly 7-2? You guys remember all the hype and the hoopla that was around Colorado last year, and every single show, ESPN's top show, college football game day, Fox Sports big show. Everybody was going to Colorado to go cover those games. Colorado has very quietly are top 20 in the country. And they're 7-2, so just that one to keep in mind. But the game to watch on Saturday, Tennessee at Georgia. Number 7 Tennessee. Are they 7 or 17? No, they're 7. Oh, the SEC. Oh, the SEC. Number 7 Tennessee at number 12 Georgia. That game's at 4:30, so some badass games. UCLA's at Washington. Nebraska's at USC. I just don't really see much interest in those games, so something to keep in mind there. All right, last thing I'm going to get into, and then we're going to get the hell out of here. I'll read a couple of these comments before I get out here as well. Yes, I'm going out to dinner. I'm here in Pasadena. And by the way, this Fugazi background, oh, man, this is a game changer. This is a game changer. I could be anywhere. Tonight, I'm going to have something Lakers-centric on the post game, and people are going to have no idea where I'm going to be at. But this has worked out great, and it allows me to freaking be wherever the hell I need to be. So, yes, I'm going out to dinner. Can I ask you guys a quick question here? Do you guys ever go out and you're going to, let's use parking as a good example, or not, let's use going to a sporting event as a good example. Can somebody explain to me why it is okay and why is it legal to have these signs in front of these parking lots or parking garage that say $5 parking in these big bold letters? I could see it a mile away. It just says $5 parking. And basically there's a guy in there flagging, come on in. Yeah, come park over here at this lot. And then in just these small letters, size font 12, it says for the first 15 minutes. And then it's like $5 every 15 minutes after. I'm like, what? What the hell just happened here? Didn't it just say $5 for parking? And then in small letters, basically you're walking away there paying $38 to go have dinner. My dinner is going to cost me $60. I got to pay $38 on top of it. What the hell's going on here in this world? Aren't we at a stage of our lives in the world of society where they can just be honest about their parking? I'm going to start. It's starting right here today. I'm going to start a campaign. I'm going to run for mayor. I'm going to start a campaign that basically you can't fugazi us on parking anymore. You can't have it's $5 for the first, and then in small letters it says for the first 30 minutes, and then after that it's $180. What the hell's going on here? Just trying to park for dinner. These guys. All right, Mayor Slee here. Where does that say? Mayor Slee. This one, don't eat in LA, Pasadena, said go to Downey or Bellflower or something. By the way, phenomenal restaurants in those areas as well. It's the same thing in San Diego. You can go to downtown, you can play an arm and a leg, or you can go to freaking El Cajon and find beautiful, great restaurants. By the way, the best Middle Eastern food, Glendale and El Cajon in Southern California. All right, let's keep going here. All right, now I'm going to read a couple of your comments. I'm going to get the hell out of here. I'm working overtime today. Sleewer International Man of Mystery. Good showing of the people in the chat. Good to see. You know, my apologies. I didn't get a chance to kind of really look at the chat when I'm doing the interview. But I know there was a lot going on here. Let's see what we have here. Bro, you need sponsors. Don't worry, brother. We got them. They're coming. They're coming. Just got to get the right ones. Guys, this is a long-term plan. This is going to be, you know, my day-to-day business. So what I want to make sure I do is when I do get the right partners on, they got to make sense. They got to make sense for me. They got to make sense for them. They got to make sense for you guys. Like if I'm promoting something on here, I want you guys also to look at this and say, hey, that's something I might be interested in. So we'll do it, but we'll do it the right way. I'm not desperate for it. I want to do it the right way. All right, let's see if we got another one or two here. Vote for Slee for lower parking fees. That's all I'm asking for. I will bring down your parking fees 38%. That's what I'm going to run on. My people, I appreciate you guys hanging out. Solid week this week. Got to be honest with you. This was as the show is continuing here, 6 weeks in today. But as the show is continuing, a couple things are happening that I'm really feeling good about. I'm kind of getting a good idea of how I want the show to run. I got somebody helping out, cutting up some of these clips, so it just allows additional impressions and views. You know, a lot of what I cut from the show is getting the same amount of views as I'm getting as I'm doing my live show. Really, really, really enjoying doing the post-game show again. I got to be honest with you guys on that. I feel like my time is now more quality rather than quantity. So it's been a great 6 weeks. I'm looking forward to continuing to do this. I think I've mentioned this to you guys before, and you guys are listening, so I appreciate it. Subscribers are going up. I just ask you guys, just subscribe to the channel. That's it. If you're not subscribed to the channel, subscribe, like the video. That's how you can support me on my independent journey, as I like to call it here. So thank you for being a part of the show. Solid week. Trevor Lane was fantastic. Michael Thompson was really great with his time. Doug McCain was phenomenal on the Dodgers front. And then Brian Windhorst this week. So we'll keep rolling up our sleeves and going to work for you guys. So thank you very much for tuning in. Hope you guys have a great weekend. Tonight, right after the Lakers and the San Antonio Spurs, the post-game show right here with me. All right? You guys know me long enough. You guys know my resume around Lakers basketball. If you want a great, phenomenal breakdown of the Lakers and the Spurs, tune in right after the game, and I'll have you guys covered. So thank you for tuning in. Subscribe, like to the channel. Have a great rest of your Friday, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Thank you, everybody.